My beloved child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because something has been trying to reach you for longer than you realize. You did not arrive here by accident. Out of countless voices, countless distractions, countless moments that could have claimed your attention, you paused here. That pause matters. There is a reason your heart feels unusually alert right now, even if your mind cannot explain why. What you are about to hear is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken something that has quietly slept beneath your doubts. Listen until the very end, because the last truth cannot be understood without the first. There has been a conversation taking place that you never heard. Not because it was hidden from you out of cruelty, but because there are moments that reveal themselves only when your soul is prepared to carry them. Today is one of those moments. Someone has been thinking about you far more deeply than you know. Not in the shallow way that the world speaks of attraction. Not with passing curiosity or temporary fascination. This reaches beyond appearances. Beyond chance encounters. Beyond the ordinary language of affection. There is a soul connected to yours whose heart was interrupted by something about you that they could not explain, no matter how many times they tried to convince themselves otherwise. They noticed something that almost no one else sees. And what they said in the silence of their own heart surprised even the heavens that watched over them. You have spent so much time believing that people overlook you. You wondered why your kindness often seemed unnoticed. Why your loyalty was met with distance. Why you carried conversations long after everyone else had forgotten them. You questioned whether your tenderness was becoming invisible in a world that rewards louder voices and colder hearts. But while you believed no one truly saw you, someone did, not perfectly, not completely, but enough to change the direction of their own heart forever. Before you dismiss these words, hear this carefully. You have often mistaken delay for absence. You believed that because answers did not arrive immediately, they were never coming. You believed that because love did not appear in the form you expected, perhaps it was never meant for you. Yet so many things have been moving quietly beyond the limits of your sight. You cannot hear roots growing beneath the soil. You cannot see dawn while standing in the middle of midnight, yet both are happening long before your eyes recognize them. Your story has been unfolding in exactly the same way. There were nights when you whispered questions into darkness that nobody answered, or so you thought. You asked whether anyone would ever understand your heart without demanding that you become someone else first. You asked whether there was someone who would love your quietness instead of trying to replace it with noise. You asked whether your scars made you too complicated. You asked whether your tears had become too familiar to heaven. Those questions never disappeared, they echoed, and every sincere question carries farther than you imagine. There is another soul who has also asked impossible questions. They wondered why every connection felt incomplete. Why every smile eventually faded into emptiness. Why every attempt at moving on somehow brought them back to an image they could not identify. At first, they believed they were searching for someone extraordinary, then something changed. Without realizing it, they stopped searching for perfection, and began searching for peace. That is when your soul quietly entered their awareness, not dramatically, not all at once, like the first light touching mountains before sunrise, gentle, unexpected, impossible to ignore once it appeared. You may not even know when it happened. Perhaps your paths crossed briefly. Perhaps they heard your name. Perhaps they noticed your compassion when you assumed nobody was paying attention. Perhaps they witnessed the way you comforted someone without expecting anything in return. Perhaps they saw the exhaustion hidden behind your smile. Whatever the moment was, it remained with them. Long after everyone else moved on, there are people who remember faces, there are people who remember words, but this soul remembered something deeper. They remembered how your presence made them feel, and that feeling refused to disappear, even when they tried, especially when they tried, because the heart has a strange way of recognizing truth before the mind agrees with it. They question themselves. Why does this person keep returning to my thoughts? Why do I feel calmer remembering them? Why does their silence speak louder than everyone else's attention? Why does something inside me refuse to let this go? They had no answers, only the growing certainty that something unseen was unfolding. Meanwhile, you were busy convincing yourself that you had been forgotten. You measured your worth against people who never possessed the vision to appreciate it. You apologized for existing. You shrank your own light because you feared becoming too much for those who were never meant to walk beside you. How many times did you stop yourself from speaking because you assumed nobody wanted to hear your truth? How many dreams did you quietly bury because disappointment had become familiar? How often did you smile simply to prevent others from asking if you were okay? You became an expert at carrying invisible weight, yet even while you carried it, someone was noticing the strength it required. Not everyone recognizes quiet courage, but the ones destined to value it never overlook it. This is where your story becomes more mysterious, because what your soulmate noticed first was not your appearance, it was not your achievements, it was not your success, it was not even your words, it was something you never intentionally revealed. They noticed your resilience, not the version you show the world, the hidden resilience. The kind that appears after disappointment, the kind that survives betrayal without becoming cruel, the kind that continues believing in goodness despite every reason to stop. That invisible strength spoke louder than beauty ever could, and it unsettled them. Because they recognized in you something they had almost lost within themselves, hope, not loud hope, quiet hope, the kind that survives storms without demanding applause. Do you understand how rare that is? The world is filled with people pretending to be strong. Very few truly are, and fewer still remain gentle after surviving pain. You have, even if you no longer recognize it. Every disappointment carved wisdom into places where bitterness could have lived. Every goodbye taught your heart how precious genuine presence truly is. Every unanswered prayer stretched your faith until it could carry blessings larger than your imagination. None of it was meaningless. None of it disappeared. Everything became part of the light someone else eventually noticed. Your soulmate did not fall in love with perfection. They were startled by authenticity. Because authenticity cannot be manufactured. It can only be lived. There was one moment, a single moment, when they quietly whispered something they never intended anyone else to hear. no audience. No performance, no expectation, only honesty. They looked toward the sky after thinking about you and softly said, "I don't even understand why this person feels different." Those words lingered, because sincerity always carries unusual weight. Then they added something else. Something that surprised even them. "I feel safer just imagining they're happy." Read that again within your heart. They wished for your happiness before asking for your presence. How many people have ever done that? How many have desired your peace without trying to possess you? That prayer revealed more than they understood. Love born from peace grows differently than love born from loneliness. One seeks to control, the other seeks to protect. And protection begins long before two hands ever touch. You have mistaken waiting for rejection, but sometimes waiting is protection wearing unfamiliar clothing. Imagine receiving everything you wanted before your heart could recognize what deserved to stay. Imagine meeting the right soul while both of you still carried wounds capable of destroying what heaven intended to heal. Timing is not punishment. Timing is preparation. There are conversations happening inside both of your hearts simultaneously. You wonder whether love still exists. They wonder whether someone like you could ever notice them. You fear being misunderstood. They fear arriving too late. You question your value. They question whether they are worthy enough to stand beside someone whose spirit feels unexpectedly familiar. Neither of you possesses the entire picture, yet both of you are being gently moved toward a moment neither of you could create alone. This is why impatience often disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers, "If it hasn't happened yet, it never will." But patience answers differently. It reminds the soul that fruit does not apologize for ripening slowly. You have lived through seasons that looked empty, yet beneath every silent season, unseen preparation continued. Even now, especially now, there are details arranging themselves beyond your awareness. People entering and leaving, doors quietly closing, unexpected. Delays interrupting certain plans, opportunities appearing from impossible directions. You interpreted some of these moments as setbacks. You called them disappointments. But there are intersections your life quietly avoided without you ever realizing what waited there. Protection often feels like frustration while you're experiencing it. Only later does gratitude recognize what wisdom prevented. Your soulmate has experienced this as well. They almost settled, almost convinced themselves that ordinary connection was enough. Almost accepted affection without depth, almost silenced the longing inside them that insisted something greater still existed, almost. One decision changed everything. A conversation ended, a relationship dissolved, a journey began, a door unexpectedly closed. At the time, they believed they were losing. Now they understand they were being redirected. You see, the most extraordinary stories rarely begin with certainty. They begin with confusion, with questions, with unexpected endings, with lonely roads that appear to lead nowhere, until suddenly, one moment rearranges every previous chapter. But before that moment arrives, there is always silence. And silence has been shaping both of you. Not empty silence, sacred silence, the kind that teaches hearts to recognize what noise never could. Perhaps you've noticed it recently. An unusual feeling, a strange sense that something is changing. Not outside first, inside, as though your spirit has become restless for reasons your mind cannot explain, as though old dreams are quietly returning, as though familiar fears no longer possess quite the same power they once held. That feeling is not random. Transformation rarely announces itself loudly. It begins like this: a subtle shift, a gentle awakening, a mysterious expectation. You may have found yourself looking at the sky more often, pausing longer before answering certain questions, feeling unexpectedly emotional during ordinary moments, wondering why memories have returned without invitation. None of these things happened without purpose. Your soul recognizes movement before your circumstances reveal it, and somewhere, not as far away as you imagine, another soul has begun experiencing the very same awakening, without knowing why, without understanding how. They have found themselves smiling unexpectedly, thinking about futures they once refused to imagine, believing again after deciding belief was too dangerous. Something inside them has softened, not because life suddenly became easy, because hope quietly returned. Hope often arrives before explanation. There is one more truth you have not considered. This person noticed something about you that even you have forgotten, the version of yourself hidden beneath survival. The version that laughs freely, trusts deeply, dreams boldly. The version untouched by disappointment. Somehow, without trying, they sense that person still exists, hidden, waiting, breathing beneath every layer of protection you built after heartbreak. And when they recognized that hidden light, they whispered words they never expected themselves to believe. Those words changed everything, but you are not yet ready to hear them, because before those words can reveal their full meaning, there is something else you must understand. A secret has remained hidden between your two journeys, a connection neither of you has fully recognized, a moment from the past that seemed insignificant, yet quietly became the beginning of everything. And when that forgotten moment is finally uncovered, you will understand why your paths could never remain separated forever.